Well, Valdemar stated that actually Flavio, quote, went there to see if he could get the rest of the money for the movie Dark Horse. In other words, he's contradicting Flavio Bolsonaro's version. Do you see? Let's put it up on the screen here.
Did you find out that Vorcaro and Flavio Bolsonaro had this business relationship through the press?
Through the press. I never knew.
He never talked to you about that?
He never talked about it.
And when you asked for explanations, what did he say?
No, he said it was on the day it blew up, and then he said he had to do it because he needed to raise money for his father's movie, and he had no other option. He said all the bankers usually help with the production of movies that are of interest to the bank and to the country. And then he said he had no option and that he turned to Vorcaro to get this help so he could make the movie.
Well, the Dark Horse scandal took a new turn today, and look who showed up, guys. Valdemar Costa Neto. He loves to talk. He always says things he shouldn't. It seems he just wants to score points and hurt Flavio Bolsonaro since Valdemar Costa Neto supports Michela. He tried to justify Flavio Bolsonaro's visit to Vorcaro's house after Vorcaro had already been arrested. Remember, that was a development from this scandal. Flavio took a plane, came to São Paulo, went to visit Vorcaro and said, "No, I went there to end our business relationship. Do you really need to take a plane to do all that?" There we go. Flavio Bolsonaro went to visit to see if he could get the rest of the money. Vorcaro was being investigated. He wasn't convicted of anything. We have no doubt that what Vorcaro did in the country was outrageous, but that's normal. What Flavio did is the most natural thing in the world. Valdemar is an old hustler. He seems to defend Flavio, but he's actually undermining Flavio Bolsonaro. Because first, he's saying that it's the most normal thing in the world to meet with a shady banker. Maybe for him it is, but for a presidential candidate, it looks really bad. Right? Even among the people in the financial markets who are canceling meetings with Flavio Bolsonaro and so on. So he's having difficulties. And the second more serious point, in my opinion, is that Valdemar forgot to coordinate the story with Flavio or did it on purpose. Because Flavio says, "I went there to end it, to let Vorcaro know that we were ending the partnership." And Valdemar says, no, he went to get the rest of the money because he knew the guy would get screwed. So he needed to squeeze every penny he could out of Vorcaro. That's what Valdemar Costa Neto said. It looks really bad for Flavio Bolsonaro. So the campaign on that side is full of infighting and disagreements on all sides. And even this kind of trickery, a statement that seems like it's meant to support but actually harms the candidate himself. Well, let's talk about the boss who's in jail. Jair. Surprising absolutely no one, the inmate Jair Bolsonaro hasn't read a single book since he was allowed to join the sentence reduction program. And for those who don't know, for each book read, right, when someone is in jail and writes a summary, they have to do a little summary of what they read. The inmate can reduce their sentence by 4 days for each book, right? Bolsonaro was sentenced to 27 years and 3 months in prison for coordinating the attempted coup d'etat, but he didn't read. There isn't any record of Jair Bolsonaro's readings. That, Laura, could even end up in the movie, right? They could add an addendum to the movie. The candidate, the prisoner, who doesn't like to read, can't even read when he's in prison, Laura.
He's the myth who can't read, right, Rodrigo? Yet the Federal District Military Police sends weekly reports on Bolsonaro's activities to Brazil's Supreme Court. So far, all 12 documents sent indicate that there was nothing in the section where you list what the prisoner has read. Other people convicted for the coup attempt have been reading in prison. For example, former Minister of Justice Anderson Torres read Kafka's The Metamorphosis. General Paulo Sergio Nogueira is reading Barren Lives by Graciliano Ramos. But Rodrigo, wasn't it obvious Bolsonaro hasn't read anything? In 2021, we remember, right, when he was president, Bolsonaro even said that he went 3 years without reading a single book because he didn't have time. At the time, the then president said that he got his information from a WhatsApp network. At another time, Rodrigo, remember that Jair Bolsonaro called books a pile with too much writing, so clearly he's not going to read anything, right?
I think that's it. About books, he used to say, I like books, but the letters get in the way a bit, right? That's about it. Yeah, when he was president, Bolsonaro even said that he didn't read the decrees he had to sign because some of them were 20 pages long. He said, there are a lot of things I sign, I only read the summary. That's the summary, right? Yeah, there are decrees that are 20 pages long. Sometimes there's a stack of paper to sign there. And it's not just reading, you have to interpret it too. And Jair doesn't like that. he prefers movies, especially movies about Dark Horse. Speaking of presidential candidates, let's leave Hulk out of this, okay? Speaking of presidential candidates, Lula widened the gap a bit more over Flavio Bolsonaro in another poll. Datafolha had come out on Friday. Today, the Nexus poll came out, commissioned by BTG Bank, so it has no connection to Lula. It was conducted between May 20th and 24th. They interviewed 2,045 voters by phone. The margin of error is 2 points. If the election were today, Lula would win both the first and second rounds. Let's take a look here at the first and second round simulations. In the first round, you can see that the gap has widened a little. In March, the difference was only 3 points. Lula is the red one here. He's pulling ahead. He had already improved a little, and now the difference is 6 points. Lula 41, Flavio Bolsonaro 35. It's not a comfortable lead. It's still a tight election, but things have improved a little for Lula. In the Datafolha poll, the gap is even bigger, right? Here it's 6 points, but in the Datafolha poll, it's 8 or 9, I think. And in the second round, let's put it up on the screen. How would it look? It also increased a little, but it's still close. 47 for Lula, 43 for Flavio Bolsonaro. If you look 2 months ago, it was a tie, 46-46. And now there's a 4-point difference. Lula is once again the favorite in a possible second round. And this is driven not only by Flavio Bolsonaro's drop, because of the scandal Laura, but also because Lula's government approval improved a little due to social programs, the debt relief program. The government's approval improved a little, right?
That's right. Rodrigo, according to the survey, it seems that this whole scandal involving Flavio Bolsonaro also did little to help the overall evaluation of Lula's government. Now, the approval rating is 47%, which is almost numerically tied with the disapproval rating, which is 48%, as we can see on the screen. What's interesting is to note that 2 months ago, the gap was bigger, right? There was a 6 percentage point difference between approval and disapproval. On the other hand, the most significant change is regarding the evaluation of the government. As another chart shows, Lula's government managed to greatly reduce the negative balance since April. Now, 37% of those interviewed rate Lula's government as great or good, while 40% rate it as bad or terrible, Rodrigo.
Yeah, so it's a very small gap. It's practically a tie. This shows that Lula is recovering, but still slowly, and Flavio Bolsonaro is also losing ground. It's not a total abrupt drop, and it's not a complete rise for Lula either, but it's a trend that we can observe in the poll. And another point, I'll even turn this way so we can show it too, is the rejection rate. Flavio Bolsonaro now has the highest rejection rate. All the polls are showing this. And it also shows up in this Nexus poll commissioned by BTG. Flavio Bolsonaro is the second one here. Look, 50% reject Flavio Bolsonaro and 47% reject Lula. It's a little more for Flavio Bolsonaro. Yeah, 2 or 3 months ago, it was the opposite. Lula had a higher rejection rate than Flavio. Now, Flavio Bolsonaro has a higher rejection rate than President Lula. I want to give a quick update on President Lula as we move on to the next story. He already underwent his first preventive radiation therapy session this morning. This procedure is part of the treatment for that cancer lesion. Yes, it's part of the treatment for that skin cancer lesion that Lula had removed from his scalp at the end of April. The session was carried out at Sírio-Libanês Hospital in Brasilia. The report released today states that the medical team chose to provide Lula with additional treatment using this preventive superficial radiotherapy, but that he will continue with his schedule as normal. He still needs 14 more radiotherapy sessions,